Hey, there you are. Come on in. Let's go talk about pocket knives. Well, I thought I would start out today's video and do something a little different. Typically, I do a follow-up video at the end showing you what the knife looked like, but I thought this time I would start out with a kind of a pre-work video. Here's what the knife is like before I service it. I've got two that were sent in to me. These were sent in by a man named Jim. He's from Tennessee. He has a wonderful YouTube channel, Hunting, Fishing, Praying. Y'all check him out. I really enjoy his channel. So we've got this case, and this is a, I can't read the number of dots. It's either 6 or 7 dots, so that would make it a 73, 74, something like that. I'll have to get the magnifying glass out and look at those dots a little more closely. A small chip there that is present, and then this pen blade is broken. So we've got to try to find a pen blade for it. As I check the knife over, the handles are good and tight. These are bone handles, so we'll have to be careful with those, taking this knife apart. It has the brass liners and the brass pin here. Everything else is silvered nickel. The main blade has great snap, opening and closing. Slide blade wobble, not enough to write home about. I think that's fine. If we can just get that broken blade replaced. If we can't, he wants it deleted, which in this case, we only have the single spring, so it would be opening the blade up. Let's see if we can open it. Yeah. If we don't have a blade for it, we can open it up, grind that off even, and would not have to take the knife apart. So anyway, that's what we're looking at with that case knife. This one is sort of a Barlow pattern, or I guess it'd be a daddy Barlow. It's not quite as long as the granddaddy Barlow. It has the pinched bolsters or stepped bolsters. This one I believe is Delrin. We have a little mark on the handle there. Looks like something got too hot or rubbed against it. The blade has been cleaned. Now some people will call that a razor blade, and it is reminiscent of a straight razor, and it's very sharp too. Let's see, it's a model 6205, looks like R. But anyway, the shape of this blade is actually what many manufacturers call a one-armed man's knife. If you just had one arm and you couldn't hold a knife with one hand and open it with the other, you could take this and hook it on the edge of your pocket or on a belt loop and just pull the body of the knife and it opens it. So it's, but some people will call it a razor knife, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with people calling it that, but technically that's what most manufacturers referred to it as. That was a one-armed man's knife. This one, like I said, the blade has been cleaned up some, and it has some little ripples in it, but I think they were trying to get out some of the potential rust or whatever might have been there. This one looks like it's also 7 dots. I'll look at that more closely. That would make it a 73 if that's the case, so it's an older knife. The problem with it is that pivot pin is loose. The blade has a lot of wobble to it. I don't see it moving there, but you can see the pin on each side. It's visible, so yeah, that pin is loose. We'll see if we can tighten up the pin. If not, we'll take it out and replace it. But both blades have a lot of wobble. That pen blade looks good. Everything else on this knife is good and tight. A lot of snap in the blades, so no further problems. So there is our pre-work analysis, and Jim will try to get you taken care of and get these knives back to you quickly. Thank you all for joining me on another knife journey. Let's dig into it and have some fun. I believe I'll start with the razor knife. I'll try to peen this pin first, and if that doesn't work, then I'll replace it. I start by inserting my 7/1000 inch feeler gauge to use as a slackener so that I don't peen that pin too tightly. It is difficult to hit the pin on that stepped bolster, so I'll flip the hammer around and use the crosshead to peen it instead. Well, that's tightened it up quite a bit, but it's still not perfect. I'll give it a few more light taps with the hammer without using a slackener. And that seems to have done it.
Good.
Now, the surface of the pin still does not line up with the surface of the bolster. Plus, I added a few dings to it with those light taps of the hammer, so I will smooth all of that out now. This is the first time I've tried this with a stepped bolster, and even using the slack part of the belt, it's just not as easy as I'd hoped. So I decided to stop and sand these bolsters by hand instead. I started at first with a 400 grit sandpaper, but that's just not doing the job, so I'll switch to a 220 grit instead. Now I'll switch back to the 400 grit sandpaper to smooth out those rough sanding marks and prepare the knife for polishing. Now it is time to polish this knife up and prepare to send it back to Jim. You can definitely see a difference between the unpolished side and the side that I have polished. Do you know the most common phrase found in the Bible? It is God telling us, "Do not be afraid." Now, I've not counted it for myself, but I hear that a variation of that phrase is written at least 365 times throughout the Bible. Hey, that's one reminder for every day of the year. In Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, he says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Man, that's an awesome promise. Now, the one true living God is holy and righteous, and he will judge every sin and every sinner. But through his only Son, Jesus, we can have peace with God, and we don't have to be afraid. I've searched through my stock of parts, knives, and blades, and I just don't have a pen blade that's a correct fit for this knife. So after consulting with Jim of Hunting, Fishing, and Praying Channel, we'll go ahead and do a blade delete. Now, I'm not afraid of ruining the temper and the steel of this blade, but I do keep it cool by dipping it in water because otherwise it will build up enough heat that is uncomfortable to hold. I believe that I started with a 120 grit belt at first. Now that most of the blade is gone, I'll move up to a 220 grit belt and then later to a 400 grit. I did not notice it upon my first inspection, but Jim reminded me through email that there's a crack in the bone handle near the top handle pin on the mark side, right in front. I'm going to have to see if I can patch that. I'm putting a thin CA glue, otherwise known as super glue, into the crack. Now, this does not always work, but on newer or smaller cracks, sometimes it will. Many knife people swear by Zap-A-Gap brand glue. I don't have any, but I do need to buy some and try it. But the technique I'm doing involves coating the crack completely with glue, then letting that glue soak in and dry. After the glue is cured well, I'll lightly sand it all off using 400 grit sandpaper. Now, much of that glue is standing out above the surface of the bone at first, a very light ridge that you can see and feel. And at first, this makes the crack more visible than ever. But I'll sand all of that away down to the surface of the bone. Notice that when I'm finished, I do not wipe away the light coating of bone dust that's left on the knife. Instead, I will add another coat of glue into the crack, and any of that bone dust that's now down inside the crack will be caught there, helping to fill that gap. Now, after sanding the handle scale, the crack seems to have disappeared. Sometimes you have to repeat this process a couple more times, according to how deep the crack is. Many times it won't work at all unless you clean it out first beforehand with brake cleaner or denatured alcohol. Then again, sometimes it doesn't work no matter what you try. You just do your best and take the successes when they come. I will spend most of my polishing time on that handle where it was cracked and on the opposite end bolster where we ground off the blade. I'll touch up everything else on the knife, but I'll concentrate most of my efforts in those two places. Well, all right, YouTube. Well, I am proud to present these two 1973 case pocket knives. Let me go through them one at a time. Of course, these are the ones we did for Jim at Hunting, Fishing, Praying. He's got a great channel. Y'all check him out. I'll try to reference it in the video here. So, yeah, this one is the 1973 Canoe that we did the blade delete for. I'm sorry, I'll try to keep that in frame a little better. That turned out very good. You see the remains of the blade are still there. The tang of it is still there. You can see that right there at the back corner where it interfaces the spring. It's a little notch there, if you would. But other than that, it looks like it never had a blade there. So everything turned out really good there. We had a small pin crack there. We got that stabilized, and even knowing it's there, being the one that repaired it, I can't find it now. So that turned out very good. Knife sharpened up well. These case steel and these older knives is just wonderful. Beautiful bones on this. Has great variation in color. So yeah, that one turned out well. I wish I had had a pen blade for it, but I just didn't. This one is 1973. Some people call it a razor knife. Some people call it a one-armed man knife. The blade was loose. The pen had backed out both sides there. That's good and tight. I even took time to hand sharpen it, which hand sharpening against the stone puts a side-to-side pressure on that blade. So if it was going to pop loose, that's probably when it would have happened. You see that pen blade has a little wear on it, but man, it's sharp and ready to go. Everything turned out really nice with this one. Again, we got the little mark there in the plastic, and some pitting, as it were, on the blade where it's been cleaned up. It probably had some rust or something before I got it. But man, there is nothing in the world wrong with a knife like that. That's one you can put in your pocket and carry and use and know you've got a great knife. So there's two of them. They're going back to him in the morning, and I hope he's satisfied with them. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. It's been a fun repair, and many of these are. Some of them get very frustrating though, but these two, everything went just the way it should have. I didn't have any real big setbacks, and they wound up being a little easier than I had feared they would be. But, oftentimes it is our fears that hold us back and keeps us from trying things, keeps us from doing things. And I've had a lot of feedback from people who've been watching the channel, and they say, well, I want to try this, and I would love to do that if I just had the time, the money, the tools. Friends, it doesn't take much. You can do simple repairs. As I showed you one of my earlier videos, just from your dining room table with some hand tools, you can do quite a lot. All you've got to do is just overcome that fear, step out in faith, and you may find that this is a fun hobby for you as well. So thank you for joining me. May God bless you richly, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.